Abigail Williams and Liberty German were found murdered just off the Monon High Bridge near Delphi, Indiana on February 14, 2017. Now, nearly 3 years have passed and the killer has yet to be identified. Join us as licensed private investigator and your host, Heather France, takes her master's degree in criminal justice and forensic psychology to the scene, providing a voice to all things crime and more. Welcome to 1023 on the Scene with Heather France. Now, your host, Heather France.
Welcome back. Today, we are joined by Carrie, who is Liberty German's mother. We are nearly 3 years out of this unsolved murder. Thank you for joining us today, Carrie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, today what I want to talk about is I want to talk about your daughter and who she is and who she was, and just tell us about Libby, her mannerisms, and just who was she?
Well, she's the second oldest of 4 girls. So, she was the big sister, but also the first little sister. So kind of outgoing, always wanted everybody to be happy. She got bored easy, so she always wanted to be on the go. Very smart, very athletic. Always doing something. Never met a stranger. He was friendly to everyone.
And she was 14, correct?
Yes.
All right. And what grade was she in?
8th grade.
What were some of her favorite subjects in school?
She was into math and science. She was just very smart. She wanted to be a pathologist, and she was into forensics and stuff.
Awesome. And I heard that she was into crime shows and things. Is that right?
Yeah, she loved Criminal Minds, and used to watch a lot of those shows.
And we'll get to that with the evidence, but that may be part of what has helped, I think, the case thus far. And again, we'll get that when we talk about the evidence. But let's talk about that day, the fateful day that Libby and her friend, they went to the Monon High Bridge. Is that the Monon High Bridge? Is that someplace she frequented? I mean, I know it's a wooded area. Just to give our listeners a little bit of background on it, can you tell us about what the Monon High Bridge is and what it's about?
I mean, honestly, I lived there for several years. My parents moved there when I was 8 years old, my mom and my stepdad. So I was there from young in Carroll County from the time I was 8 years old until I was about 26. I lived in Delphi from the time I was 19 until I was 26. And I didn't know about the Monon High BridgeTrail really until I think it was the summer before this happened.
Oh,
the summer
okay.
or 2 before.
Okay.
I had moved to Kentucky about 11 years ago, and I moved back for a short time, and I had a storage unit right up the road, and it was the first time I ever even heard of the place, but I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
But the summer before, my mom posted some pictures on Facebook with her and Kelsey and Libby out there, and my brother Adam. And I was like, hey, where's this place at? She was like, well, that's this place where the kids go and hang out, period. It doesn't seem really all that safe. She was telling me about this rickety old bridge, and it was kind of scary, made her nervous. And I was like, I can't believe I've never heard of this place. Because I love hiking and whatever, there's trails out there. And I think they went a few times after that. It wasn't somewhere they went every day.
Mm-hmm.
But people in the area, would go out there and hang out and hike and walk the trails. And, I guess, apparently people fished out there, and I had no idea.
Okay.
I didn't know it was so popular of an area until all of this, because, like I said, I've never even been there. I've only been there twice since.
And I've seen photos of the high bridge, and I actually have a fear of heights. So when I saw photos of just how high up, I think it's like, and I may be misquoting what the actual height of it is, but I thought it was like 70 feet or something. It's really high up in the air with these slats that have nothing in between them. And so when you're walking across it, you have to pay attention, or you could essentially
Absolutely.
fall through.
Yeah, it's literally an old railroad bridge. You know, the railroad, the steel part's been taken out, the rails.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the railroad ties.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how railroad ties can get.
And
I've been there for years.
Yeah, and on the day that they went ultimately missing, and then of course, as we know, they were found and had been murdered. Were there other people out that day? Do you know anything about that day as far as like the weather and if there were other people out there?
Yeah, it was an unseasonably warm day.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the temperature was that day, but it was you know, non-typically warm, not, you know, unusually warm. Libby was out there in a t-shirt, so didn't have a jacket on. So it was warmer for a mid-February day than it would have usually been. And it just happened to have a day off school, so from the stories and stuff that I've been told, that there were people out there, you know, off and on all day. There were people there at that time. There were cars there when Kelsey dropped the girls off.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And school was out that day, so there may be a likelihood that perhaps other kids were out there, other teens, do you think?
I don't know about any of the other districts, but yeah, Delphi, yeah, there supposedly was kids there that day from, you know, that were school age.
Okay. Well, why don't you lead us walk us through that morning when you found out up into when the girls were ultimately found.
Okay, so that Monday morning, I was getting my two younger girls up for school here in Kentucky. And as I would normally do, the morning I would send Kelsey and Olivia, you know, good morning, have a good day message on Snapchat. And I got the girls off to school, got myself ready for work, and took off from work. And I had to be able to get like 10, I think it was 10, about an hour away. So I left for work, and Libby Snapchatted me back on my way to work, and she was still in bed. And I was like, what are you doing in bed? Lucky. Mom off school. We had a built-in snow day, whatever. We had one Friday, so maybe Monday also. And I was like, you know, how lucky. 9 o'clock, you're still in bed on Monday. I drove on to work. We Snapchatted off and on that morning. I don't really remember when our conversation stopped. I'm assuming around lunchtime, because I probably left for lunch to my mate and didn't talk to her after that. That evening when I was about to get off work, so it would have been 6 or 7 o'clock, close to 6 or 7. I got a message. I think it was about 7. Got a message from Kelsey, Kelsey called me, which I immediately thought was odd, you know, because even though we talked every so often, she didn't really call me. So I sent her a voicemail and sent her a message really quick, and was like, hey, I'll call you in just a minute. I'm about to get off work. And she made it clear that I needed to talk to her now. It was important. So I went ahead and clocked out and left. Got outside, and I called her back, and she said, Mom, have you seen Libby? And we kind of laughed, and I said, yeah, I've seen Libby. I'm 260 miles away. And she said, Mom, we can't find Libby. And I remember kind of falling to my knees and just like the world stopped. Mm-hmm. I don't really remember. I got home and I didn't have my own vehicle, so I had to take the car that I was driving back. And I went home. I was trying to figure out how I was going to get up there to join the search party, you know, because it was obviously the furthest thing from my mind was that she was gone.
Right.
This was an absolute search party.
Right.
So I couldn't be up there that night. My brother and a friend of his were out searching, and they were both calling me and messaging me back and forth, telling me, you know, this is what's going on. We're over here. We searched this area. Have you heard anything? You know, keeping me updated, trying to keep me calm, trying to tell me that they got a boy, or they just went out there with the intention of getting drunk, or, you know, something silly.
Right.
And I was like, you guys just don't know Libby. She would never do that. She would never want to be in trouble. She'd never want to make anybody worry. You know, she would never do that. If she were going to do that, somebody knows. She'd tell somebody.
Right. So you knew it was unusual.
Yeah, it was absolutely out of character for her to not show up, not answer her phone. You know, just not be where she said she would be.
Right.
I knew that it wasn't like she ran away. It wasn't. She just made a plan to go do something, was hiding out or whatever. Something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. So they called off the search at midnight. I don't really remember sleeping much that night.
Yeah.
With my phone, you know, obviously next to my head radiating. Hoping. The next morning, I was working on getting a rental car, loaner car, vehicle, any way of getting up there, you know, to search. And so I was getting everything in order. Finally, I had a car, and I was getting ready to go get gas. And my brother called me, and he actually said to me that he had seen some disturbing things on Facebook, and I needed to call Becky. And I refused. I was like, I'm not calling her. I'm not doing it. Looking back, I guess it was more of a defense mechanism. Like I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want it to be real. But I tried to call Kelsey, and she didn't answer. I tried several times and couldn't get any answer. A few minutes later, as I was on my way to get gas to head on up, Kelsey's number, actually, my phone rang and it popped up Kelsey, but it was Derek. And I had a split second of relief when he said, Carrie, they found the girls. And of course I asked if they were okay, and he said no. And there's no if they were alive, and he of course said no.
Yeah.
So of course he had to tell me that no, they were not alive. So I did the best I could to get my shit together, and I actually went and picked up my girls from school, and then we drove up. Their dad drove me up. It's probably the longest trip we took from here to there.
I'm sure.
I spent the next several days in Libby's bedroom, slept in her bed.
What did law enforcement at this time, you know, once the girls were found, what did they tell you guys, or what did they say to you?
Well, they immediately went public and said that, you know, they suspected foul play immediately. I wasn't given any updates by law enforcement. I never really have been ever. So.
Okay. And do you know what they've told other people, or I guess it would be hearsay, but did they give any details about what exactly happened to them? I know they said foul play, but they just kind of left it up in the air. Is that essentially what happened?
Yeah. No, they never told us. I still don't know what happened. Cause of death wise, I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
What anybody else knows, I don't know. But speaking for myself, I don't know. I don't know what happened to her at all.
And this is considered an open case still, as we know. Likely, you know, evidence, which we'll get to here in a minute, they're not going to release the evidence because it is an open case. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the evidence that we know, things that have been I say recently released, but it actually has been several months now since the last release. So we'll get to talk about that and go from there.
You're listening to 1023 on the Scene with Heather France.
Okay, we are back, and we're going to talk about the evidence that law enforcement has released, maybe some speculations, but otherwise, let's get into the evidence that we know about. So, law enforcement has done some news conferences, and they did release a snippet of the video of who they think the suspect is, because, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, Libby actually recorded the snippet of the video on her phone, either due to fear, maybe she thought somebody was following her, but if you could tell us a little bit about that, that was Libby's phone, correct?
Yes, that video came from Libby's phone.
Okay, and law enforcement, they've only released a small snippet, but again, we think that there may be more. Is that how you feel about it too? That there may be more video or at least audio on that phone?
It's my understanding that there is actually more audio. I don't know video-wise what there actually is, but there is certainly more audio.
Okay, and let's take a listen real quick to the audio.
Downhill. 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 Downhill.
Okay, in the audio, you can clearly hear a man saying down the hill and down the hill. Does this sound like anybody that, again, it's kind of a ridiculous question, but have you ever heard of any voice that sounds like that you're aware of?
No, I can't pinpoint it.
Okay. And the clip of the video shows a man walking across the bridge, kind of with, in the law enforcement, they also say pay attention to his walk. And I almost wonder if they're saying that because, you know, the way he walks, it's kind of almost like a little, I don't want to say a limp, but there's a weird kind of, he just has a unique walk. And so I'm sure they want the public to think about or watch if there's anybody that they know of that has any type of an odd walk, to pay attention to that. Now, one thing I thought about though is on that high bridge, you've got these open slats and it's, you know, however many feet high. I wonder too if he was just paying attention to where he was walking so he didn't fall down the hole. You know, again, that's speculation, but what do you feel about that, Carrie?
Well, I feel like if he was walking on the road, then his stride would be a lot more important. Trying to navigate that bridge, though, although I've never done it, I can only take about 4 steps out.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the way I would walk across that bridge if I could actually do it being the same as me walking down the street.
I think you bring up a great point to that. I know, like, there's no way I could even probably take 2 steps to get across that bridge because I have such a fear of heights. So I still wonder about why they stated that too, because you make a great point. You know, walking down the road, you could tell somebody's natural progressions, the way they stride, the way they walk. On a high bridge, I mean, people are going to walk odd, I would think, because you've got to watch where you're going. I will say he did appear to be comfortable on the high bridge, so it may be somebody that is obviously comfortable, has been there before.
Right.
You know, he didn't seem to look too terrified, I would say. Like, if I were out there, I'd probably be down on my knees, grasping on the sides of the railings, or no, there's no railings, I should say, but the sides of the, you know, the wood, holding on for dear life. He wasn't obviously doing that. He was just walking across. So what's unique to me, though, is that we talked about earlier that Libby watched crime shows. Do you think that played into her instinct to get the video? Do you think that went through her mind.
I'm sure it did somewhat, that she knew, hey, something's not quite right. I need to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I need to catch at least a picture of glimpse something.
Yep. Do you feel like, let's talk about the sketches. So early on, they had this sketch of what appeared to be an older, middle-aged man with a goatee, some scruff on his face, possibly a hat, and or a hoodie, a blue jacket and jeans. Then they switch, and I say recently, but it's been several months now, they released another sketch, a newer sketch, and they said they're going in a new direction. This sketch looked like a completely younger, curly-headed, no hat, no hoodie, different person. What do you feel about the new sketch being released?
Well, I find it interesting that, number one, they had the sketch 3 days after the girls were found. So I'm still flabbergasted, basically, as to why for over 2 years we were looking for one man, and now we have seemingly a completely different picture.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you put the two together, if you overlay the new versus the old one, they're basically the same, minus the facial hair, the younger look.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me wonder if it's not perspective of how someone saw him that day.
Mm-hmm.
But the not knowing, the spot where I'm in of not knowing what law enforcement knows, lets my mind wander.
Yeah.
So, not knowing what happened. So I have all these different, I don't know, my mind never stops.
Well, yeah, and as a mother, I mean, how does that make you feel inside? I mean, I can't, I don't even.
Well, I 100% don't know if I'm looking for an older guy or a younger guy.
Yeah.
They say that the guy is possibly younger than he looks, or what do you say? No, he looks much younger than he is. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That he may look much younger than he is. Well, I don't know. So now I don't know if I'm looking for a 20-something or 40-something. Thought we knew before. So I feel even more lost now, I guess.
Right, and it really did it perplexes me as well. I mean, when they came out with that new sketch, I thought, they said we're changing directions too. How do you feel about that statement? What goes through your mind with we're changing directions?
Well, I can honestly say I haven't seen anything new happen since then, so I don't know what direction they went, but I would like them to get back on the focus of finding this killer. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense to me none of that makes any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the hopeful part of me is thinking that law enforcement maybe has a suspect in mind, but maybe they're building a case and they need more witnesses to come forward. Maybe they need just more people so that they can make a stronger case. That maybe is my wishful thinking, or my hopeful thinking, is that, okay, maybe they know, or maybe the person's already in jail, because there has been speculation, and I'm not going to name any names of the person, but there is speculation that there's a person that's already in jail, locked up because he actually has murdered 2 other people. He's a suspect in 2 other murders around the West Lafayette area, that area, with again, it's speculation, and I want to be clear about that. Strangulation was involved and things of that nature. And so my wishful thinking would be that, okay, maybe they've got the suspect. Maybe they're just building a case. Maybe they need more evidence. But then the other side of me, and I'm not even, in your position, is the frustrated part, saying, okay, what's going on here? Like, why all of a sudden do we go here to here? Is there new evidence? So I can only imagine how you're feeling as a mother, with these unknowns, because us is just public. We have all these unknowns. And as you know, and as you've seen in social media, this case has went, I mean, it's not only nationwide, it's in other countries. It's been broadcasted worldwide because of those unknowns. And so do you feel like, is there any other new evidence that we don't know about?
Not that I know of. I mean, that's not to say that law enforcement doesn't have anything or doesn't have something, because we don't know what they have.
So we're about, we're almost 3 years out in February, correct?
Yeah, 3 years in February.
What would you, as Libby's mother, like to see from law enforcement?
An arrest. I don't really care to see any. I don't care what their evidence is. I don't care. They don't have to tell me what they're doing. Just show me an end result.
Do you think there's going to be an arrest?
I don't know. I hope so. There's no way that my daughter died in complete vain, so no, I do believe that there will be an arrest.
Yeah, she didn't die in vain regardless of arrest or not. I do want to say that, because I want to say this case has not only made I'm a mother. It's not only made me more aware of my own surroundings for my children, for making me more on alert for them. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, now when they go places, I'm always, be safe, be aware of your surroundings. Don't go in wood. It's just crazy that, it's taken this to maybe make us as a society more aware that there are evil people walking this earth.
Yeah, especially where you don't think they are.
No, you think this trail and this nature, it's beautiful. You go out there to relax. I used to walk the trails every day by myself. There's like a stretch of about a 3-mile stretch, and I always went by myself. I didn't think of course, I watch crime shows too. But you always want to think that, no, in this small community, I'm safe. People wouldn't do that. That's just what you see on TV.
It's never going to happen to me.
It's never going to happen to me, and it's never going to happen to my children. And when it does happen to somebody that you meet or it really brings it, in full circle, that you're like, okay, this happens, this is real. And so I want to tell you, her death wasn't in vain. I hope that other people are more aware and they just realize what's out there. It's not to fearmonger, but at the same time, it's called, now we've got to be more aware of our surroundings.
That is so true.
It is. And unfortunately, I mean, teenagers now also know about this case, and hopefully they're more aware of their surroundings, and they don't just take it lightly. So what would you like to say to the killer, or killers, I should say? We don't know if there's one or multiple people, but what would you like to say? Now, now this is the platform I want to give you and take the opportunity. Is what do you want to say to the killer or killers?
Just do the right thing and turn yourself in.
What do you want to and what do you want to say to anybody who's listening if they see or know of anything suspicious?
Of course, always be vigilant and know what's going on around you. But if you know who this person is, do the right thing and turn him in before he hurts somebody else.
And I truly think that this person, I mean, again, this is my own opinion and my own speculation, but the manner in which this is all came about, I really feel like this person has probably done this before, or something at least leading up to this point, as far as crime goes.
Yeah, it was
way too comfortable.
I got away with it for too long for it to have been first attempt, I believe.
And to have two girls involved, if it were only one person, this person would be very comfortable being in control of two young females. So I definitely feel like this person has done this before, or in some context of controlling type of mannerisms.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you keep Libby's memory alive each day?
I see signs from Libby every day, all the time.
What kind of signs do you see?
A certain song will come on, and I get Libby bumps. A lot of the people that I meet, the stories that I hear. Her youngest sister is practically her reincarnated. So,
Aw. What kind of music did she like?
I think she listened to a little bit of everything, really. But at the time, she was really into 21 Pilots.
Nice. I like their
She
music
got me
too.
into 21 Pilots. So,
Yeah, they've got some really good tunes.
yeah.
Well, what do you want to say before we go and before we get off here today? What do you want to tell? Do you want to tell the listeners anything else about Libby, or again, anything, if they know anything or if they see anything? What do you want to say?
You know, just keep sharing. Somebody out there knows who this person is, so keep sharing these flyers. Keep getting the word out there. Somebody is the right person's gonna see it one day and know who it is and turn him in.
I agree 100%. Well, I appreciate you so much talking with me today. And of course, we're going to keep sharing this. This is why I do this, is to keep this alive, keep Libby alive, keep this going until justice has been served for those two girls, your daughter and her friend. You know, yeah. And so I appreciate you tremendously. And, you know, maybe we can, you know, I'm hoping that we don't have to meet up again, because I'm hoping that they find the killer, and maybe we can meet up and talk about when they found the killer. But I'm going to keep sharing this, and, you know, we'll meet up again if we need to get it back on there again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.